Soak ginger in vinegar and see what happens. Why can such a common root, which many leave forgotten in the kitchen, become one of the most valuable home secrets for daily wellness? Why did our grandmothers trust ginger so much when the body felt weak, cold, or tired? And there is still another important question. If ginger is already powerful on its own, why can combining it with vinegar, honey, or rock sugar make it much easier to take and much more pleasant? Stay until the end, because this simple method can change the way you see an ingredient you might already have at home. If you have ginger at home, don't just leave it there until it dries out or loses its aroma. One of the oldest and most practical ways to use it is to pickle it. Let it steep in vinegar and turn it into a simple preparation that you can take little by little whenever you need it. This type of dark, aromatic liquid is not a new trend. In many Asian cultures, it has been used for generations as a home remedy to relieve minor everyday discomforts and help the body feel more balanced. I learned this method from the health secrets of my grandmother, a woman who turns 98 this year. She never talked about complicated recipes or impossible to find ingredients. On the contrary, she always said that the most useful things are usually right in the kitchen, waiting for us to know how to prepare them well. And ginger was one of those ingredients that was never missing in her house. Before starting, the first thing is to look closely at the ginger. At first glance, it may look clean, especially if it comes from the supermarket with clear, dry skin. But the truth is that dirt, dust, and impurities can still hide in its small crevices. That is why it is not advisable to use it directly. You have to cut it into smaller pieces to be able to wash it better and ensure that every corner is clean. Now we move on to the step that many people do too quickly, cleaning the ginger. It may seem like a small detail, but it actually determines the quality of the entire preparation. The ginger we buy at the supermarket usually looks clean on the outside, almost shiny, as if it were ready to be cut and used. However, if you look closely at its curves, its knots, and those small natural crevices, you will see that there may still be traces of dirt, dust, or hidden impurities where water does not easily reach. Therefore, before pickling it, it is best to cut it into more manageable pieces. There is no need to peel it all right away. The important thing is to open up those irregular areas so that the washing is more thorough. When the pieces are smaller, you can rub them better with your hands and check if any part is damaged. If you find a piece with mold, dark spots, or a strange texture, the most prudent thing is to remove it. And if an area is only affected on the outside, you can peel that specific part and keep the rest if it is firm and fresh. Ginger skin should not be seen as something useless. In home tradition, the peel is valued because it helps balance the natural heat of the root and also contains nutrients. That is why, when the ginger is healthy and well washed, it is not necessary to remove all the skin. Simply cleaning it patiently is enough. If the ginger is freshly pulled from the ground, the washing must be even more careful. You can add a little salt and baking soda to the water to help loosen the stuck-on dirt. Then rinse it several times until the water runs clear. This step is not difficult, but it requires patience. Because if we want the vinegar, honey, or rock sugar to do their job well, we first need a clean, fresh, and properly prepared root. And isn't it curious that such a powerful result always begins precisely with such a simple and humble cleaning at home? Now it is time to steam the ginger, a step that seems simple but greatly changes the final result. After washing it well, I place the pieces in a steamer pot. I don't pile them all together because if they are too tightly packed, the steam cannot circulate evenly. I leave a small space between each piece so that the heat reaches all sides and the ginger cooks gently. When the water starts to boil, I lower the heat to medium-low and let the ginger cook for 10 to 15 minutes. No more is needed. The idea is not to turn it into a paste or make it too soft, but to mellow its natural strength. The steam helps some of the spiciest compounds rise with the heat, reducing that strong sensation that bothers many people. Because of this, even those who do not normally enjoy ginger can find it more pleasant after this process. There is something very comforting about the aroma of fresh ginger when it is steamed. It is a warm, clean, deep smell, the kind that fills the kitchen and makes you think of old recipes, patient hands, and unhurriedly prepared remedies. My grandmother always said that when ginger starts to perfume the house, The body already knows that something good is coming. The most interesting thing is that this step does not destroy its value. The ginger still retains its natural qualities. It contains volatile oils, gingerols, and other compounds that, according to tradition, help stimulate circulation, warm the body, and awaken internal energy, especially when the weather changes and we feel cold easily. When the cooking is finished, the skin looks slightly shiny and softer to the touch. That is the right point. It should not be dry or hard, but neither should it be soggy and shapeless. And here an important question arises. If a simple steam can mellow the flavor without taking away its essence, why do so many people skip this necessary step to achieve a balanced, aromatic, and easy-to-eat ginger? As soon as the ginger finishes steaming, it is still wet. That detail is important, because if we put it directly into the jar and cover it with vinegar or honey, the excess water can affect the final quality. It can change the flavor, weaken the preservation, and cause the preparation to lose that clean balance we are looking for. Therefore, before pickling it, you have to let the moisture evaporate. I place the ginger pieces on a tray and put them in the oven for a while, just to dry them slightly. It is not about toasting or burning them. The intention is to remove the surface water and concentrate its aroma a little more. While they dry, the kitchen fills with a warm and deep perfume. That smell immediately reminds me of the ginger chicken my grandmother used to make. It was enough for the steam to start coming out of the pot for the whole house to know that something comforting was about to be served. When the ginger is no longer wet on the outside, but is still flexible and fragrant, it is time to prepare the jar. Here, too, we must be careful. The container must be made of glass, be completely clean, and above all, not have a single drop of water or traces of oil. If the jar is not completely dry, the entire preparation can be affected. A simple recipe does not mean we can make it without paying attention. Then I start placing the ginger pieces inside the jar, one by one. If you cut them into slices, try to make them of a similar thickness. This small detail makes a difference. Pieces that are too thin absorb the vinegar quickly and can become excessively acidic. Thicker ones, on the other hand, can retain too much spiciness in the center. That is why cutting uniformly helps make the final flavor more balanced, milder, and much more pleasant. Now that the jar is clean, dry, and filled with the ginger slices, we can start with the first preparation. I add 2 tablespoons of rock sugar. This ingredient is not there to make it too sweet, but to mellow the strong acidity of the vinegar and make the flavor more well-rounded. If you prefer something more natural and aromatic, you can also use honey. The idea is to balance the spiciness of the ginger with a mild sweetness, the kind that does not overpower, but rather complements. For this first version, I use balsamic vinegar. Its aroma comes from fermented grapes and has a special depth that pairs very well with ginger. When the vinegar covers the slices, a transformation slowly begins. The ginger retains its warm character, but becomes gentler, easier to eat, and with a flavor that improves as it rests. With the remaining ginger, I prepare another very healthy version: ginger with honey. This combination is simple, but powerful in home tradition. The longer the ginger stays in the honey, the more their aromas and properties blend. It is similar to that old preparation of garlic with honey that is left to ferment for weeks. With patience, the ingredients integrate, and the result becomes milder, sweeter, and much more pleasant to take directly. And there is still a third way, perhaps the easiest of all. You don't need to overcomplicate things with additional steps. You can place fresh ginger in a jar, add a little rock sugar if you want, and cover it with apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar has a very pleasant flavor, although sometimes it can be more expensive or harder to find. If you don't have it, you can also use rice vinegar as a simple alternative. This preparation is related to caring for circulation and supporting overall wellness. Ginger and vinegar together create a blend designed to support the body from the inside. So with 3 different jars, you have 3 ways to enjoy the same ingredient. One with balsamic vinegar, another with honey, and another with apple cider or rice vinegar. Which of these would you try first? To use these preparations, there's no need to overcomplicate things. With the jar of ginger and honey, it's usually enough to take out a slice and eat it directly. Since it has been resting in the honey, the spicy flavor becomes much milder. It no longer hits the tongue so strongly, but is instead enveloped in a pleasant, warm, and easily palatable sweetness. That's why it can be taken as a small snack when you're craving something comforting. Sometimes, when I want something more soothing, I put a few slices of ginger and a little bit of that syrup into a small teapot. Then I just add boiling water and let everything mix slowly. The heat of the water awakens the aroma of the ginger, the honey dissolves, and little by little, a clear, fragrant drink forms that is very soothing to the throat. It's one of those simple infusions that seem humble, but make the body feel comforted. This tea is especially comforting on cold days, when the weather changes or when we feel our throat starting to bother us. In my grandmother's tradition, ginger wasn't just a cooking ingredient. It was a way of quietly caring for the body, maintaining internal heat, and supporting the immune system during cold and flu season. It didn't promise miracles, but it did offer something constant, a simple, natural, and easy-to-repeat routine. The most beautiful thing about this method is that it leaves you with 3 jars ready to use whenever you want. One with balsamic vinegar, deep and aromatic, another with honey, sweet and mild, and another with apple cider vinegar or rice vinegar, lighter and more practical. 3 different ways to make the most of the same ginger. Perhaps the question isn't whether ginger works, but why we've stopped listening to these ancient recipes that so many families held in high regard. If you found this method useful, subscribe to the channel and write in the comments which of these 3 versions you would prepare first.